Okay, so now what we're going to do here is work on these curtains and this lamp and this little book here. So that's an opportunity to also add a little bit of pop of color. So for these curtains, let's just pick up on a color that we already have. And so I'm going to use some of this ultramarine blue, this blue purple, and this bluish light tint of that color, which is called lilac here. So what I'm going to do is just overall, these curtains actually have a part in the middle. So what I'm going to do over here is to just make that a little darker, just to remind me not to put the curtain color in between where the curtains are parting, okay? So I'm going to first put a little bit of lilac color, a light pressure all over, right over the gray for the window trimming, the light blue of the sky. Just put it right over because the sheer curtain is like a layer of color over all of those colors. So it's easy. You just need to put it right over all of those colors. Nice light layer. Nice light layer, because that's what sheer curtains are going to be like. They're visible, but you could see other things right through them, right? So that's what we're going for. Okay, so put that kind of lilac, bluish purple light color right over those existing colored areas. And let's do that here as well. On this side of the curtain panel, this is the second curtain panel on this side, right? Okay, let's do that over here on the opposite side. Make sure that you put some of that color, you know, in the spaces between the headboard here and down here as well behind the headboard. That curtain goes all the way down. I'm going to just put a little outline there. All the way down to the floor. So make sure that you put that lilac color over the window part, not the brass of the bed, because the bed is in front of the curtain. So you shouldn't cover over the color of the bed headboard. I'm just going over these little wavy lines at the top and kind of filling those in and with a little bit of this lilac purple. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and shade the panel on the right side and just color right over the existing colors underneath. All the way down to near the floor, or well, the top of where this sheet is right over here. Okay. With the ultramarine, I'm going to show you how to put in the shadows on the curtains. So you'll remember that the top of the curtains have these peaks and valleys and peaks and valleys. So the peaks are like these high parts and the valleys are these low parts right over here. And I told you to draw like 2 lines on either side of the valleys. And when you do that, you kind of create the wrinkles or the ruffles in the curtain. But these lines shouldn't really be there. They're really like the edges of where the shading is. So right here in the valleys, we're going to put some shading. And then as we come up toward the peaks, we are going to blend out the shading. So the darkest shading is in the valleys, and then as we come up toward the little mountain peak here to the tops here, and that extends all the way down the middle of the curtain, or middle of this area right over here, we are going to lighten up on the pressure on our pencil and make those high areas lighter in color, like that. So this is basically the general idea we're going for. A little darker here. See that? So it looks like darker in the valleys and then lighter kind of in the middle of these peaks, and then darker in the middle, way darker kind of like in the middle of these little valleys. So we want to do that type of shading and apply it to the tops of these curtains here. And I'll show you what you can do for the bottom as well. So wherever there's a valley, you want to just put a little bit of this ultramarine blue. Okay, it's such a small area. I don't know if you're going to be able to do the dark to light kind of fade, but you could try. Okay, so it gives it a little bit more of a three-dimensional feel. Okay, and then where the curtain kind of goes downward, you could put a little bit of the ultramarine blue to say that it is like kind of the curtain is going kind of folding in on itself. All right, at the bottom of each of these sheer curtains, there's ruffles too. It shouldn't be perfectly smooth and straight, so there should be some ruffles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create these really like what looks like really skinny triangles or carrot shapes with this ultramarine blue. And I'm going to make them at different heights. So one can be a little longer, one can be a little shorter, one can come all the way up to the middle of the window like that, but they represent the ruffles on the bottom of the curtain as well. I'm gonna just kind of fade them out. So that's the ruffling of the curtain from the bottom, because the bottom of the curtains should also have this type of ruffle. And in between, where the valleys are, once again, you're going to have these long shadows. And those shadows do kind of look like, yes, like these, but in reverse. Kind of look like carrots. And they kind of fade in the middle. And they just kind of fade to the side and fade to the side. But they kind of travel up. But I digress. I just need to get on with this. All right, so I was just kind of showing you this kind of shadowing effect at the bottom of the curtain. So let's do that here to the top of this curtain here too. Kind of where the bumps kind of dip down into a valley. I'm going to put like an ultramarine blue line, a little dark fuzzy line. Okay, and just put a little bit of that ultramarine blue on the outside of the curtain here, on these outside edges to make them more visible. And also a little bit on the inside edge, and then just fade it to the right and the left. And put a little bit of a little dark crease right here, the bottom here. And maybe one here behind the bed, and maybe another one here, and that's about it. Okay, because we don't see too much of the curtain on this side because of this whole bed structure, the headboard being in the way. You know what, at the end of the last section of the video, I was showing you how to shade the little tubular metal bed here that has the scroll design. So I'm going to go back to that. Kind of to the right of center, I'm putting this red-brown line to represent, very lightly, to represent the core shadow. I'm putting a little bit of this red-brown, kind of a little bit lower than the middle here of each of these spheres, and making like a little crescent moon shape right here. That's the core shadow on the gold metal color. And I'm also going to put some on the lower half of the little top tubular metal piece right over here. Right, to represent like a reflection of maybe something like the floor or something else. And on the, you're going to put that like a little light line of this red brown on the underside of each of these scrolls. And then when they come and bend and become more like a vertical, put it on the right side, and then on the right side and the underside. The right side here and on the underside when the scroll kind of bends upward like that, and then the underside. Just like if you're doing like 3D letters, you put a little shadow on the right side and the underside, but you don't put it on both sides of the lettering. Here we go, on the right side and on the underside. The right side and the underside, just to make it look a little bit more 3D. Okay, and it's actually on the little yellow scroll thing, not on the side of it, but actually on or inside that yellow area. Oh, I skipped this little scroll right here, so make sure that you might not see that very well, but that was a scroll right there. So I'm going to color that in with a yellow ochre. And then right a little bit on the inside, I'm going to put a little red-brown line. Okay, and I'm going to put a little red-brown line right underneath this little ring, which is on the right. There's like a little gold ring right underneath the little round sphere. Okay, and I'm also going to put that right here, a little bit on the underside of this brass foot and to the right side of the middle, like that, on the foot right over here. Okay, so now it looks like I have a shiny brass foot that matches the metal headboard right over there. We did the curtains, and let's go ahead and let's do this little ceiling light here. Let's make this brass. So I'm going to put a little bit of this yellow ochre over there, the lighter color, a little bit of this yellow ochre right here on this finial, which is that little button that you screw in at the bottom of a ceiling light to keep all that glass and stuff, you know, on there. You gotta kind of screw it in with this little knob. Let's just say that these little clips are brass as well. And then I'm gonna go back in there, and I'm going to use kind of a brownish yellow. And in my set, I'm using bark. I'm kind of using a more toned down brownish yellow instead of a red brown, because it's kind of, there's lots of gray up here, and there's nothing bright colored around this light fixture. So I'm going to use that to draw a little core shadow here, kind of to the right of the center. And also I'm just going to go over the line in the center with that brownish yellow color. I'm also going to just press a little bit more lightly on the left side of my core shadow, and also on the right side I'm putting a light layer of that, and pressing a little bit more darkly on the left and the right, and then fading it inward. Okay, so I just wanted to make that look like it was brass too. Okay, this was just a light that I saw, you know, on the internet when I looked up ceiling light bedroom. This light came up and I like that. Now I'm going to use like a little bit of red because it was a stained glass ceiling light. So on these little panels, I'm going to make a little, it looked like a ceiling light that had these little petals, a petals design. So I'm going to make these lines kind of like a reddish color over here. And then there was some sort of little inside braided design there. And then the inside of the petals, I'm going to make those, I think I'm going to make those like a pretty green color. So I'm going to pick a grass green. Because stained glass comes in many different colors. It's very colorful. Stained glass is usually used on like religious buildings, churches, mosques sometimes have beautiful stained glass as well. Depends. Stained glass can be used by any kind of religious building for decoration. Now this part right over here, I think I'm going to use kind of like a light yellow for the rest of this glass. This is just, or yellow, it's just yellow. Just make it colorful. Stained glass is always colorful. Okay, so that's a little pop of color there. That's very nice. All right. Now we gotta let's do the easy stuff here. This book down here, let's go ahead and make that book like an orangey red, a scarlet. So let's make that red or scarlet. It's like an orangey red. And so we're just kind of being real even about coloring it in. And we'll leave it like that for now. Okay. Now I want to show you something kind of cool. I want to get what is that brown color that we were using here? Burnt sienna. I want to show you how to make a shadow. Let's go ahead and make the shadow a little bit darker brown. So let me go and grab the Van Dyke brown, which is like a dark brown. And to the lower left of this little knob, I'm going to create a half oval here. And I'm going to color that in. That's going to represent the shadow from that knob, the shadow cast by that knob. And this window here is providing the light to create that shadow. Now we need to cast shadows for these knobs too, but that light is going to come from this direction here, right? All the windows are on the right side here, so we're going to cast that shadow to the lower left. And use just like the edge of your pencil, the edge of your colored pencil. You know, when you turn your colored pencil and you use it, there's always going to be like a little sharper area near the tip of your colored pencil. Just use that to create more detailed little shapes. All right. So now, wow, that makes a real big difference. Now those knobs also pop right off the front of that piece of furniture there. All right, now let's get to this here. And this lamp, what should we do about that lamp? Let's just say that this lamp is, it has a brass little button at the top. This is brass for the little cylinder right here that connects the lamp shade to the lamp base. And let's make the lamp base something really beautiful and bright. So let's go with a medium green color. So I'm going to use just green here. And I'm going to press a little bit more lightly at the top and press a little bit darker underneath. And I'm going to avoid all of these little leaves here, these leaf shapes. Because we're going to shade those leaves with red and orange. Okay. And make the body of this lamp base this lamp base itself, green. Okay, don't worry about shading anything or anything like that right now. And just kind of go around the leaves, avoid the leaves, do not put any green on them. Okay. Okay. And at the top, I'm going to mix a little bit of this lime green. I can find some lime green here. It's grass green. Lime green, that's peppermint. Here's some lime green. And put that at the top a little bit. Okay. For the lampshade, I don't want to make that light. I want to make it a cream color. So I'm going to go ahead and pick something called sand. And you might have something called cream. The Prismacolor could call this exact shade cream. This set calls it sand. So what I'm going to do with the sand is just overall fill this in right over the branches, right over the design. Don't worry about the design. We'll use a darker color to fill in the design. Okay. So when you have kind of a cream color, what should you shade with if you're creating like a core shadow for that? So what I would do is try to find a very, very light brown. I'm going to see if I can find that bark, which was a yellowish brown. Here it is. And I'm going to try to create a core shadow on the lower, to the right of center here. Just right here. Don't worry about the design. Don't worry about these branch designs on all over the, the lampshade. Don't worry about that yet. You just want to shade overall the lampshade. Just the overall lampshade coloring. You just want to get that. And then as you go to the left, put a little less down. And then put a little less down. And then right on the edge, put a little bit of that brown down to hide the fact that there's a strong outline there. Try to hide the outline in a little bit of shading right there. And the same here to the right, just put a very light line of this brown. So what you're doing here is right here creating a core shadow and then creating a little area of reflected light over here, just putting a little less, and then just kind of hiding and covering up the outline on the left and on the right. And there is a highlight right over here. If you want to make that more pronounced, you could just erase it up again a little bit. It's a highlight right there. But I don't want to make that white. I just want that to have a little bit of a creamy base color. Okay. So what I'm going to do with a very, very vibrant orange red, this is going to be called vermilion. Vermilion is an orange red. I'm going to color in one of these little sets of branches here. Okay. And you'll notice that some of the lines crisscross over. So I'm going to make this structure here vermilion, which is like a orangey red color. Okay, just right over the color that I just put down. Okay, and now I'm going to save that and hold on to my leaves. Then I want to choose an even darker red orange. So I'm going to go ahead, well, you know what? I'm just going to use what they're calling red. And it seems to be a little bit orangey to me. And I'm going to color in the branch, set of branches next to it, a slightly darker color. So this is orangey red and this is red right here. So red and green are also opposite colors. So this lamp is going to be kind of striking, because it's going to have all of these kind of opposite colors, you know, throughout the lamp. All right, the upper part of the leaves, I'm going to make that vermilion red orange. So that's going to be kind of like the upper part, or the left upper part. And then the lower part of the leaves, I'm going to color in just straight red. Okay. Just want a little bit of color. Something interesting. Pattern and color are good to include in your drawing. There we go. So that really, really pops. Now what I'm going to do here is put a little bit of red on the back of this book as almost like a shade color, and then fade it as I go toward the front of the book. All right. So you would think, okay, everything looks good. It looks almost finished. So let's go ahead and put a little bit of trim color up here. So let's say this trim is not white, where someone actually put like a brown colored wood trim up there. So I'm going to get some of this burnt sienna, and I'm going to shade it from dark to light up there. So it's going to be dark on this side, and it's going to fade to light as we go toward the corner of the room. This corner of the room, which is in the center here. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. Make it a little darker here on the right side. And as we come over here, fade it. Now I'm going to get a little bit of this ochre, mix it in here. And just so that my color is not looking a little pale and weak because of all these little white specks from the paper, just going to fill in all those white areas with the yellow ochre. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is go from dark here in the center on this left wall to light this way. And I'm going to use the same brown. So this is called crown molding. Normally people have it in like more important rooms in the house, like the and like more public rooms, kind of like the living room, the family room, the dining room, where you might entertain guests and bring people from outside of your family to visit. So they, you know, it's a very public, more public than, let's say, your master bedroom or your kids' bedrooms. Those are kind of like your private rooms in the upper part of your house. So I'm going to use a little bit of yellow ochre here. All right, so these are little strips of wood, and what you want it to look like is that they're three-dimensional. So at this point, we're going to start making everything look a lot more three-dimensional. So you might have thought we were done, but we're not. We're going to make this drawing look a whole lot more realistic.